Sometimes it feels like people just go poof and they're gone forever. With that in mind, here's our list of the top 10 famous people that have never been found. Number 10. Amelia Earhart. In the 1930s, Amelia Earhart was an American hero and one of the most famous people on the planet. In 1932, according to the National Women's History Museum, Amelia became the first woman to fly across the Atlantic Ocean unaccompanied, and she was awarded the Cross of French Legion of Honor and the American Distinguished Flying Cross, among other achievements. In 1937, she set out on a journey that would prove ambitious and mysterious. She aimed to be the first woman to fly all the way around the globe. Alongside her navigator Fred Noonan, she departed Miami on June 1st, and by July 2nd, they made it to New Guinea with plans to hit Howland Island, a small inhabited landmass between Hawaii and Australia. Now, sometime en route, Amelia, dealing with the poor weather and low fuel, lost contact with the Coast Guard liaison. Her plane never landed and it was never discovered, nor were Amelia or Fred, despite a joint Coast Guard and Navy search effort that encompassed 255,000 square miles. Number 9. Patrick McDermott. Patrick McDermott worked as a cinematographer on a handful of short films in the 2000s, but he was far more well known for his personal life, the romantic partner of 9 years, on and off, of Olivia Newton-John. According to The Telegraph, Patrick was on board a Mexican-bound charter fishing boat called the Freedom of California in June 2005, but he didn't make it back with the ship. Philip Klein, a private investigator hired by the NBC investigative news show Dateline to find the 48-year-old cameraman, theorized in 2009 that Patrick faked his death and vanished as to cancel out substantial debts and to allow his son to cash in on a $150,000 life insurance policy. Philip firmly believed that Patrick was alive, citing 17 credible reported sightings, many of them from Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, the last place Patrick was seen alive. According to the CBC, another investigation ruled that Patrick had likely drowned in the Pacific Ocean. However, in November 2017, the Australian magazine New Idea and other tabloids published pictures perpetrating to be of Patrick alive and well in Sayula, Mexico, but a Canadian man named Wes Staub refuted the claim, proving that he was the guy in the photos, not Patrick. So is he well and alive? No one seems to know. Number 8. Michael Rockefeller. Michael Rockefeller, the son of New York Governor Nelson Rockefeller, was 23 when he began dabbling in art and collecting and travel photography. In November 1961, he traveled to the jungles of New Guinea to spend time with native Asmat tribes when he went missing. Despite a 2-week search and a witness who supposedly saw him swimming in the ocean, his body was never found. His official cause of death was noted as drowning, but conspiracy theories range from being kidnapped to going native and even being eaten by sharks. Another big theory is that he was eaten by the people, as the Asmat tribes were involved in that practice and sometimes ended people's lives as a part of past rituals. It's also been said that his boat overturned near the Asmat region of the island. The boy swam to shore to look for help, and that's it. Nobody ever saw him again. But at least some members of the local tribes have told stories indicating that Michael's life was ended upon reaching the shore and his body was cut up and parts were handed out as gruesome trophies. Regardless of how or what happened, it will forever remain a mystery. Number 7. Joe Pitchler. In the late 19s and early 2000s, child and teen actor Joe Pitchler appeared in a series of small and supporting roles in a number of movies and TV shows, most notably as Brandon Newton in the Beethoven family film franchise. According to the Charlie Project, Joe spoke with a friend at about 4 a.m. on January 5th, 2006 in his northeastern Washington hometown of Bremerton. A few weeks before his 19th birthday, he left his apartment untouched, unlocked, and with the lights on, and apparently only took his wallet and car keys before he disappeared without telling anyone where he might be going, apart from some poems that spoke to his depressing mindset. 4 days later, Joe's Toyota Corolla was located in Bremerton, and authorities suspected that Joe may have jumped to his death off a bridge over the Port Madison Narrows, but no evidence of that nor his remains were ever recovered. Number 6. Scott Smith. Canadian band Loverboy was one of the biggest rock bands of the early 80s, and Scott Smith was a founding member, staying with the group all the way until his mysterious and frightening disappearance at sea on November 30th in the year 2000. After playing with his band in Vancouver, BC, Scott's 2 friends and his girlfriend set out for Mexico on a 37-foot sailboat. As they sailed down the coast and neared San Francisco, the weather got rough, and one of them estimated that a wave to be about 20 feet high knocked Scott off the deck of the the vessel and into the water. Coast Guard helicopters arrived within 20 minutes and dispatched 2 search boats, which scoured a 133-mile area, but to no avail. When fog and continuing high waves ended the search, Scott's family paid for a private search by a San Francisco company, and that too proved fruitless. To this day, his remains have never surfaced. Number 5. Theodosia Burr Alston. In January 1813, Theodosia Burr Alston, daughter of former Vice President Aaron Burr, stepped into a small boat docked in Georgetown, South Carolina, and she was never seen again. At the time, Theodosia was as infamous as her father. Aaron's duel with Alexander Hamilton had been brought on in part by Hamilton spreading rumors that the former VP and his daughter were engaging in acts no father and daughter should ever do. When Aaron was tried for treason, Theodosia was there, and when he fled the country, it was with her help. After her father left the country and her son died, she then slipped into a depression. When she vanished, it didn't take long for the public to create many conspiracy theories. They said she'd run away to marry a Native American, she'd become a pirate's mistress and was still out there riding the seas. The most plausible explanation though, she drowned at sea. Number 4. Hale Boggs. At the time he went missing, Hale Boggs was one of the most famous politicians in America. A Democrat from New Orleans, Hale had sat on the Warren Commission investigating JFK's assassination before becoming House Majority Leader during the Nixon years. Now, he verbally attacked J. Edward Hoover in Congress, he was thought to be an alcoholic, and he became famous for doubting the lone gunman theory of the JFK shooting. So yeah, Hale Boggs was kind of a big deal in 1972, hence the nationwide shock when he disappeared. On October 16th that year, he was in Alaska helping a fellow congressman's re-election bid. The two got on a light aircraft heading for remote Juneau, and they were never seen again. The weather was terrible that day, and as soon as Hale failed to show in Juneau, everyone guessed what had probably happened: they crashed. What was the biggest search operation in US history was launched, with 90 planes searching 325,000 square miles of Alaska. But no trace of the missing aircraft or its occupants was ever found. To this day, there are some out there who think Hale was assassinated for his work investigating the JFK assassination. Number 3. Bison Dele. Before he changed his name, Bison Dele was a basketball player, Brian Williams, a 6'11" man mountain who was an amazing player in the NBA. He then quit the sport and left the States at age 30. He stayed away from the US for years, raising hell in Australia, where he learned to sail and bought himself a boat named the Hakuna Matata. Then he said he was going to sail it clear from Tahiti to Hawaii. On July 7th, 2002, Bison set sail. On board were his girlfriend Serena Carlin, the ship's captain Bertrand Slaldo, and his older brother Miles DeBoard. They never made it to Hawaii though. Bison, his girlfriend, and the captain vanished at sea. 2 months later, his brother Miles was arrested in Phoenix trying to buy gold with one of his brother's checks. Released on bail, he then ended his own life. It was suspected that he ended the lives of all 3, as he was allegedly a bitter guy who was prone to violence and envied his brother's success. It said he most likely ended their lives and dumped their corpses in the Pacific. To this day, their bodies have never been found. Number 2. Lord Lucan. In 1974, Lord Lucan bludgeoned his hated wife, Veronica, to death in her London home after she divorced him and won custody of their kids. Except he made a tiny mistake. He didn't attack Veronica, but Sandra Rivet, the children's beloved nanny. After the death, Lucan vanished. As you can probably guess, he was never found. Now, he wasn't declared dead until 1999, and his son wasn't allowed to inherit his title until 2016. Now, many people have come up with conspiracy theories about him. He drowned himself after realizing what he'd done, and his body sank to the bottom of New Haven Harbor. He went into hiding in Africa and died there in 2000. And the strangest is that his rich friends convinced him to take his own life, then fed his remains to tigers at a private zoo in Kent. Now, according to Business Insider, Rivet's son Neil Bierman claims that Lucan has been living as a Buddhist in Australia as of 2020, but who knows? And coming in at number 1 is Prime Minister Harold Holt. On December 17, 1967, Harold Holt, the Prime Minister of Australia, disappeared while swimming in the sea. He was with others and he knew the area well and had swum there many times before. It seems like he swam into deeper water and was dragged out to sea. The others called out for him, but he did not raise his arms or cry for help. He soon slipped under the waves and out of sight. The Victoria Police were contacted and initiated what became one of the largest search operations in Australian history. history. The entire Australian Defence Force was put on high alert. An enormous search operation was mounted in and around the beach with helicopters, watercrafts, police divers, and 2 naval diving teams, and more than 340 people were involved in the search. Strangely, his body was never recovered. It's generally agreed that his disappearance was a simple case of accidental drowning, but a number of conspiracy theories have surfaced. A 1968 story in the Sunday Observer claimed that Harold had been assassinated by the US Central Intelligence Agency, supposedly because he intended to pull Australia out of Vietnam. Also, suggestions were made that Harold had his life ended by the North Vietnamese after being incapacitated by a nerve agent, of course, or that he had faked his own death to be with a lover. In 1983, British journalist Anthony Gray claimed that Harold was a lifelong spy for the People's Republic of China, and according to Anthony, Harold faked his own death to defect to China and was collected to frogmen who dragged him to a waiting submarine. Well, that's all for our list of the top famous people that have never been found. Did anyone on our list shock you? Let us know in the comments down below, and we'll see you next time.